everybody, and welcome to the channel. Welcome to the kitchen. Last week I showed you guys how to forage for ramps, and today we are going to talk about what to do with those ramps. And while eating them fresh is awesome, I love to preserve them throughout the season. So I'm going to do two different ways of preservation. One is going to be a ramp salt, which is like a seasoning salt, and I use it on everything. It's like the most delicious seasoning salt. You get the garlic and the onion flavor. I often mix it with dry mushrooms like morels or boletes. And then we're also going to make a compound butter. So I've got about 1.5 pounds of butter here that we're going to mix up with the ramps. And so it all starts with the blender. So I'm all about efficiency, and I want to show you guys how to do this kind of stuff in an efficient way. It doesn't have to be hard. So I have a high-speed blender here, and this is going to be the base for the salt and the compound butter, so that we can just process the ramps one time, and then we can split it up and we can use it for two different recipes. So let's go. Now, before you put them in the blender, you can choose to wash them. I don't usually wash wild food unless it comes from a dirty area or they are dirty. I try to harvest clean, and this is just another way to be efficient in my opinion. So we go through and we're going to just take these leaves, we're going to kind of start shoving them down in the blender. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to blend this up into a fine paste, and it's going to incorporate really well with the salt, because the way I do my ramp salt, and you could do this with any onion, or you can do it with even celery and carrots and onions if you want to include those in your seasoning salts. But what I like to do is almost infuse the salt with the flavor. Instead of drying these and then powdering them up and mixing them with the salt, you have ramps and then you have salt. I like to infuse those together, so like by the end, every grain of salt is going to have that ramp flavor in it, and it's going to be a beautiful green color. So I'm going to put those in, and I'm going to go grab a little bit of water, and the water is just going to get that process going, and it's going to help blend those ramps up. So we're going to have to do this in batches because we have a decent amount of ramps, and I'm not going to use all these ramps for this. I'm probably going to use maybe a total of maybe like 1 pound of actual ramps. We'll see. I don't usually use a lot of measurements. I'll try to guesstimate how much I use by the paste. It's a lot easier to know how much paste I make versus how much these weigh, because I just don't have a proper scale for that. So we stick them in there, a little bit of water to get them started. And some of these ramps I'm actually going to use for, I'm going to blanch them and I'm going to freeze them so that I have some kind of fresh ramps to utilize in other recipes like pestos and things like that. Which pesto is another thing you can make. And just as a side note, add as little water as you can to this. The less water we add, the less we'll have to either strain out or dry in the oven eventually with a dehydrator. So just add enough water to get it going, but there's plenty of moisture in the ramps themselves. Remember, this is going to be for 2 recipes. This is going to be for 1.5 pounds of butter and 5 pounds of kosher salt. So it seems like I have a lot of paste here, but I'm going to split it in half and put it for both recipes. And this is just a good way to maintain efficiency and be able to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So instead of having to set all this up again, we just plan ahead and we do it all at once. Okay, so one note, I do want to be careful. I don't want to heat this mixture up too much. I'm trying to keep it cold so that it doesn't oxidize and change color on me. So I'm going to grab a little spoon here. I'm going to kind of push her down a little bit just to get them incorporated before I put the lid back on. And there we have it. We have our ramp paste, a beautiful neon green color. And there's still a couple chunks of leaves in there, but I'll grab those out. But you can do this, like I said, with any green onion tops, or I mean, you could even do this with onions, like the bulbs, if you wanted to. But I just like to use ramps. Ramps are very special to me, and you know, it makes for a nice special seasoning salt to use throughout the year, because we also grow our own onions and everything. But ramps have a very unique oniony, garlicky flavor, and a little bit funky too, a little bit of umami. So I'm gonna grab my spoon here and I'm gonna get that paste out. Then I'll give you guys a better view of what it looks like when it's done. And you can tell this is very much a paste. This is not a liquid. The paste is important because I want it to incorporate with the salt. I don't want it to melt the salt and make a very salty soup, basically. So we're gonna get all that green out of there into our bowl. That way we can split her in half here. All right, look at that. Beautiful ramp paste. Unfortunately, smell-o-vision isn't a reality yet. Or maybe it will never be. But there's the paste. Now, I'm gonna take my spoon. And I'm gonna roughly split this in half here. And I'm just gonna plop her right into my salt. I'm gonna say this is probably about 2.5, 3 cups of paste per 5 pound box. I can always add more if I need to. I like to have it strong, so for me there's no sense in doing this unless it's gonna be nice and strong and it's gonna have that pronounced flavor. So now we're just gonna mix it up, and you gotta trust the process here, because I know it doesn't look like it's gonna work out, but it will. Because again, like I said, we want that paste, because we're basically making a salt paste, and then we're gonna dry it back out, and then we're gonna have salt infused, ramp infused salt. So just mix it together. You can see how it distributes throughout, and we still have that paste. And you can see we still have the salt crystals, and they're not gonna melt. There's not enough moisture in here. The salt is gonna draw in all that ramp moisture and infuse itself. And there's the ramp salt. Now, before we finish this, I'm gonna put this aside, and I'm going to bring out our butter for our compound butter, and I'm gonna show you how we do that with the rest, and then we'll finish the salt and we'll be all done. Okay, for the butter, I'm just gonna unwrap my sticks here. Now, these have been sitting out at room temperature so that they're fully soft, and this is gonna really help us. And I'm actually going to just kind of lump them up there. Now, and so this is why the moisture level in the paste is so important, because you know we are going to be adding some moisture into this butter, but it's best to add as little as possible. So I'm just going to mash this up here, because I'm just going to get my hand blender, hand mixer, and I'm going to mix it up with that. So just kind of squeezing it into smaller pieces. This is unsalted butter, by the way. So for a compound butter, it's like a finishing butter almost. So I add it to the end of dishes or on top of dishes. And I usually don't season this. The ramps have tons of flavor already. And if we season this now, it could make our final dish too salty at the end. So if I wanted to, I would add some ramp salt on top of the finished product, but I'm not necessarily going to add any salt to this. I want it to be kind of plain with just that ramp flavor, so that way I want to control the seasoning of my dishes while I'm making them. If we salt this now, we've kind of set the standard for how much salt is going to be added to a dish, and if you forget, you could end up over seasoning. So salt at the end. All right, this is going to be a little bit rough at first, but just bear with me. While the butter is room temperature, it's kind of cold in here. You gotta trust the process on this one. Also, my mixer really sucks. I have a KitchenAid, but I really hate using it because it's so heavy and I have to bring it upstairs. So this is what we're gonna do. All right, so here's the finished butter, and you can see that it's weeping that excess moisture out, which is fine. I would rather it tell me how much moisture it has on its own than me have to drain out all the moisture and possibly lose some of that flavor. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take it and kind of squeeze it in my hands. It's kind of like washing butter. Squeeze out any of that excess moisture, because in order to store this, we are going to actually roll it into tubes in this freezer paper, and then we can freeze it. And then it'll last all year long. So we just grab some handfuls, and I'm just kind of squeezing out that moisture. I don't want to handle it too much, as it will start to melt, but just make sure we get all that moisture out of there, any excess. It's okay if there's some in there, you know, this isn't like cooking butter, this is finishing butter, so it's not a huge deal. All that moisture is just flavor. So I kind of form it into a little slight log here. Going for a couple logs. So we're going to kind of morph it in there like that, a rough shape. I'd like to get this as round as possible, and I'll show you how I do that. I'm gonna wash my hands. And here's the finished product. Now you can just take a knife and cut off a little piece. It's going to be kind of hard because it's frozen and I have one hand. But there you can see the cross section. Ramp compound butter. So I put the ramp salt in the oven at 170 for, it's been a couple hours now, and it's starting to get there. It's starting to get crackly. So I'll let it go for maybe another few hours until it's bone dry, and then I can break it up. And here's your final product. This is the dry ramp salt. You can see it's all this beautiful green color. And you got some larger chunks and some smaller chunks in there. Thanks for watching the video, guys, and if you like this kind of content, give me a like and a share, subscribe to my channel, and I'll be doing more wild food cooking videos all year long, because I don't just want to show you how to find the food, I want to teach you how to cook it and preserve it too. So have a good day.